Hello and welcome to this session on Google Drive and Google Docs. We're going to start this session in a couple of minutes' time, well, about 3 minutes' time. So if you're watching this as a recording, you can probably scrub to 3 minutes on the timeline down the bottom of your screen here. My name is Tim Smale. I'm the e-learning fellow with the Faculty of Health, and we will have, hopefully, a couple of other presenters joining us very shortly, and I'll introduce those as they arrive. If you are joining us post 12:30, but before 1:30, then you're able to scrub live if you want to join us live, again using the timeline at the bottom, or click the live button. If you're joining us after 1:30, then this is a recording, and you can just watch or scrub through the video to the bits that you find relevant.
Hello.
Hello, we're now joined by Matthew West from the LPDC. Again, we're going to be starting this broadcast in approximately 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So if you're watching this as a recording, you can scrub through to 3 minutes on the timeline. We'll hopefully have another couple of presenters with us before the start of the presentation. So it looks like we're starting to get some good views. Again, we'll be starting this presentation in just over 1 minute's time. Again, if you're joining us after this session and looking at this as a recording, hopefully we'll aim to start it at about 3 minutes, so you can scrub using the timeline at the bottom there to 3 minutes to the start of our presentation. So in just under a minute now, we'll start the session. Whilst we're getting started, for those watching live, there should be an app available on the side of your screen here for asking questions. If you click the green button that says "Ask a new question," you should be able to place up anything that you'd like to know about. And as soon as we see that and it's appropriate, we'll try and answer your question. And that will also become a timestamp in the video. So when you come back to watch this video later on, you'll be able to jump straight to the answer of that question. So it's really useful if you can. Please ask us some questions as we're going along. If you are joining us and you're not quite live, there's no live in the top corner of your window, or possibly you don't see that. I think I only see that icon, but at the bottom, certainly, you can drag your timeline to make it live. You can drag it all the way to the right-hand side, and then your questions obviously will get answered a lot quicker. But if you do want to revisit something that we've said, you can just drag the timeline backwards. So, running 30 seconds behind already, so I'm going to get started. Unfortunately, the other presenters haven't been able to join us just yet, but hopefully they will soon. Again, my name is Tim Smale, e-learning fellow with the Faculty of Health, and we also have Matthew West from the Learning and Professional Development Centre, and who will both be chipping in and talking to you today about Google Drive and Google Docs. We hope to do more of these webinars in the future, but we're starting out with the most used apps. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen here with you. Okay. So the first thing is that we should really define Google Drive and explain what it is useful for. So Google Drive is an online storage space. So if you think of a USB memory stick, or if you're slightly older, going back to floppy disks, take that and place it into the internet. That is what Google Drive is. It's a space for you to store your files electronically and access them electronically from any internet connected device, or the majority of internet connected devices. You can certainly access it from any Windows PC, from any Mac, majority of tablets, majority of smart mobile phones as well. And I'm going to show you very briefly how you can do some of that. The nice thing about this is that you are able to securely access your files from anywhere. You don't have to carry them on devices such as USB pen sticks that will eventually stop working, but also you can share your files with other people. So you don't need to email them a copy of the file and get it back. You all see the same file, you always see the latest version. And it really is a nice way of sharing, working together. So I'm going to start just to have a look here at Google Drive. So this is my Google Drive, and you get to this by going to drive.google.com. If you're in your emails or any other Google product, you'll see that actually you have a symbol in the top right-hand corner here, which is these 9 squares. And if you click on this here, you'll find that you have a link there to Drive. So just trying to get our other presenters online here, sorry. So inside Drive, it works with a traditional folder structure, file and folder structure, and you can see here that we've got a load of folders there, and then we've got some files beneath it here. And this is the website interface. You can, of course, install it onto your computer. I'm working here with a Mac, and because I've installed it, I can now see that I have the Google Drive favorite on the left-hand side, and you can see that these match up. Now, the website chooses to order my Drive by placing all of the folders at the top, whereas the Mac chooses to intermingle folders and files. So you can see here archive and big screen, archive, big screen, but it's choosing to place archive and art up there, whereas the website chooses to list them a bit further down. So you can access it obviously via the website there, as we're showing you, via your computer, as I've shown you on the Mac, and it's a very similar thing on the PC as well, Windows PCs. You can access it through apps as well. There we have on iTunes, we have an app you can install onto your iOS devices. And for Android users, we have an app there that is available to install onto your Android devices. And again, this gives you a great access, to your Google Drive remotely. There are a lot of other apps as well that integrate with Google Drive. So if you're using something like Lucidchart, Stack Edit, any of these other apps that are available here, and there are a lot of others that aren't listed here, these all integrate with Google Drive. So instead of having your files in a separate app, for example OpenOffice, you can have your files inside Google Drive, but these apps will use that as the file store. So all of your files are therefore kept in the one place. So I'm going to go back into Google Drive now, and we're going to look at how we're actually going to start working with our files. So if you have not already installed it onto your computer using the button over here, you can do so, and it is then very, very simple to upload a file. You literally place it into this folder on your computer. It will then synchronize and it will become available inside here. But if you're not able to install it or haven't yet installed it, you have this upload button on the left there, this red upload button. Selecting this one here will allow you to upload either individual files, or you can select to upload an entire folder. So if you've got a folder full of journal articles or other files that you wish to upload and share, or just keep for yourself, you can select the folder option. Otherwise, just select the files, and you can then select the individual files that you wish to upload. So I'm just going to select an example Excel document here. Now, I've asked the upload settings here to alert me every time, and I recommend that you also, when you see this one here, confirm before each upload. This will give you the option of converting some of the documents that you upload, and you have to make the decision whether or not it's appropriate to convert it. When you do convert your documents between Microsoft Office formats and Google formats, there may be some formatting that is lost, so it's always worth checking it before deleting the original. But as you can see here, that you can convert documents, so Microsoft Word documents and other such documents, presentations, spreadsheets, drawings, to the corresponding Google Docs format. And as I say, we're going to be looking at a Google Doc later on. But if you want to collaborate live online, you will need to convert your documents. If you just wish to share the files with other people and keep them in the original format, you don't need to convert them. Again, you can convert text from PDF and images into Google Documents as well. This is what's usually referred to as an OCR kind of text recognition service. So I'm not going to convert my file at all. I'm just going to upload, and we can see down here that the upload is complete. This file is now available online, and I can access this from any internet-able, or majority of internet-able devices anywhere in the world. There's no having to carry it on a USB memory stick. So I'm just going to check if we have any questions that have come up so far. Okay, we haven't had any questions so far. Don't forget, if you do want to ask a question as we're going along, please use the questions bar on the right-hand side if you're watching live. Obviously, if you're watching this as a recording, that's not going to be available to you. Okay, so if we now have a look at sharing, so we've got these files, they're available to ourselves, they're private to ourselves, they're not visible to anybody else, they are locked down. If you now want to start sharing this file, we can select the file here from inside the file browser, and at the top here we have this share button, this person with a little plus next to them. Now we can select as many files as we like, or even folders, and I'm just going to talk a bit more about folders in a second, but we can select, in fact I'll talk about the folders very quickly now. If you want to place your items inside a folder, you can use the create button up here, and we have create folder. This will very simply give you a title and once you've created that, you'll see that your folder is therefore created. Very simply, if we wanted to, we could grab files and just drag them around and drop them into folders. If I go inside this folder here, we can now see that our file is inside it. So going back to sharing of these files, if we select here, we can share this individual file. I can either select multiple files if I wish to share them, but a nice way is actually sharing the entire folder, which you can do either from here by selecting the folder on the left and using the share button, or if you're inside the folder, you can do from the drop-down menu on the folder title and just go into share. What this allows you to do is define who has access to your file. So you could place into here the individual people, and they have to have, they don't have to have Google accounts anymore to see files, but you can place in here individual people and define what they can do, if they can only view or if they can edit the content that you're linking to. So for example, I could place into here my colleague and say that he has the ability to edit, and I'm going to notify him via email. I can send him a little message to tell him why I'm sharing this with him. But on this occasion, seeing as he's watching me live, he's going to know why I'm sending it to him. Now, because I've shared that entire folder with him, everything inside that folder he's going to have the same rights to. So if I were sharing this file by itself, you can see that it's already got MapWest can edit next to it. Now I can downgrade his access by just changing it there and just changing him down to can view. And we get some extra functions as well because it's a file type as opposed to a folder, of being able to comment, and I could actually make him the owner as well, giving ownership up to him. If I wanted to, I can add in additional people. The extra ability in sharing is at the top here, and you can specify that people with this link at the top here, and you can say that anybody at Keele University with a link can access the file. Anybody with a link, doesn't have to be at Keele University, can access the file via that link. Or you can say that the file is searchable, so you can actually search for files available to everybody at Keele or publicly on the web. In other words, anybody anywhere is able to see that file. So you need to be very, very careful with this one here, nearly as careful with this option here, and these two options here are slightly safer as long as you only give the link to people that you trust.
Can I just chip in there, Tim?
Yeah, certainly, Matt.
Just to reiterate what Tim has just said, out of personal experience, releasing a folder and then realizing that some documents in it were not for viewing by everybody who had access to it, I'd opened up all the documentation to the world. So those settings that Tim has just gone over, please do look at them carefully, especially if it's sensitive information to do with students.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at some of the questions here, I'm just going to select a question here, and yes, it is very much like Dropbox, and it does have the big advantage of being able to collaborate online and edit documents. But yes, we will look at those later on. Someone is stating that you don't have to install the app. That's correct. You can just access it via the browser. There's no requirement to install it. But if you do install it, it does mean that you can access these files a lot easier from your computer or other device. You also have access to them offline on your computer as well. So I just answered another question about having to install the drive. No, we've already covered that. We've already covered the question about the Dropbox. Okay, so why would you want to convert a PDF doc to a Google Docs format? The advantage is that you might be able to do some editing with it if you want to be able to copy the text as well. Really, it depends what you want to be doing with the file as to whether or not you would want to convert that. I'm also being asked, can you go over the sharing the link again? Okay, so just go back in to here. So if you wanted to share the file with an individual, if it's just a file, you can select the file and go to the share button at the top here. If it's a folder, you can either select the folder from here by clicking on that symbol there, the little box there, and going to the same symbol, or inside the folder you can go to the header, click on the drop down menu and go to share, enter the individual people's details that you wish to share it with, or if you wish to share it via a link, so in other words, you don't know the people that will be accessing it, you want to send it out to maybe a load of students, or place the link available on a website if it's if it's appropriate to do so. Inside here, you click on the change button next to specific people can access, and then you select the appropriate option. So share with specific people means only those people you've listed on the previous screen have access. People at University of Kiel with the link means anyone who you give this link here to can access it, but it also means anyone they give the link to can access it as well. University of Kiel means anybody at Kiel can actually search for it. They don't have to have the link or know about it in advance, they can just search for it. Anybody with the link means very similar thing to people at Kiel with the link, but it means that they don't have to have a Kiel University Google account. It means that you could send it to somebody from Aston University, or you could share it with your parents, your brother, your sister, etc. Anybody can access that link. Publicly on the web is the really dangerous one. This is the one where anybody can then type it into Google, search, and it will come up for them. Okay, so there's a question here that's being asked. If a file is shared but folder is not, can others access the file, or does the folder have to be shared as well? So if, for example, I had 2 files inside this folder here, but only shared the Excel file, only those people that I've shared the Excel file with, they'll only be able to see that file. They won't be able to see the folder, and they won't be able to see the other file inside there. They'll only be able to see what was shared with them. If there were 3 or 4 files in this folder and I shared the folder, they would all be able to see everything inside this folder. They would also be able to see everything you subsequently add into the folder at a later date. So you need to be very, very careful if you're putting extra files in there later on into a shared folder, and we can quickly see that it's a shared folder by the person symbols inside the file, inside the folder icon up here and on the left-hand side. You need to be very careful that you actually want to share those files with them. Once a file is put into a folder, you can actually revoke access by going back into the sharing for an individual file and just remove those people. Okay, so I think I've got through the questions that are currently outstanding. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on. So we covered sharing a file. You can use a link shortener as well. So sometimes these links can be rather long, as you can see here. That this link here is not exactly easy for somebody to type in, and you can go to other websites such as tiny.cc, and that will give you the ability to shorten your URL, and you can create something which would be tiny.cc/, and you can actually customize the URL as well. So you could put /killfile1 or something like that, something nice and short that your users would be able to enter inside there. If you want to know if other people have been interacting with your files, working with them, there is a very nice little button in the top corner here, and this is the little eye symbol, and this shows you the information on this folder. So we can see the activity in here, that I have uploaded an item into there, I've moved an item around, that I've shared an item with Matt West, and that I've also, people at university with the link can see this as well. So you can see that I've been playing around with it, and it's very, very quick and easy to come back in and work out if somebody has done something new or if they haven't, and therefore you don't have to go into every file to check if there's been any changes. Okay, so I'm going to move on now from Google Drive, which is your file storage area to Google Docs. Now, Google Docs is built into Google Drive for you, but really you need to think of it as a separate app. It's a separate piece of software that allows you to do online creation of content. And it stores all of its files inside Google Drive for you. Very nice and simple to use. And you have a great big Create button in the top left there that allows you to very quickly get started with these. In this webinar today, because we could spend probably a whole day delivering information on this, we're only going to focus on the document feature inside here. Select the document there, and it asks you, basically alerts you to the fact that you're creating this inside a shared folder. Okay, so remember what I said before about being careful of putting extra files in there once you've shared the folder, but they are actually going to give you a warning when you try and create a new Google Doc inside there that it's a shared folder, and do you really want to be sharing this with the other people? And yes, I do. And you can see that this opens up a very simple text editor here. Most of the symbols up here are very similar to those used in other text editors such as Microsoft Word, and you have some very useful additional functions in the menu bar up here as well. It works the same way as most other text editors do, so I'm not going to go into massive amounts of details of what you can do with this. But in effect, you can place your text inside here, you can copy and paste, you can use the formatting, such here as title, subtitle, headings 1, 2, and 3, to give structure to your document. A lot of people are very, very tempted just to change the font and font size and make it bold, underline as their headings. But actually having a unified approach to this makes your document look a lot nicer. So by selecting your text and changing it to title, subtitle.
Can I chip in here at the moment, Tim?
Sure.
Just with you changing the styles there for title and headings, just to tell everybody, please, this is absolutely best practice when it comes to making your documents accessible, especially for visually impaired students who need to use screen readers, as the screen readers define the way they operate by your use of headers, titles, and so on. And I think also, whilst you were in the editor there, Tim, I don't know if anyone noticed that it was saying saving the changes as you went along, and that all changes had been saved to the drive automatically. This just comes up on a regular basis. It's there just next to the word help, all changes saved in drive.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Matt. Up here at the top it says all changes saved in drive. If I just make some extra text here, you can see it's saving as I go along, and by the time I stop typing, 2 seconds later, everything that I've typed in has been saved, and it does alert you if it has stopped saving. Say, for example, if you've lost your internet connection, it alerts you to that fact. I'm just going to quickly go back in and answer some questions that have already come up. Can you allow access to edit a document for a specific time, i.e. automated times? It's nothing I've ever come across that does that. There are some new add-on features which we're not going to cover today, and it may well be that somebody has written something that will allow this, but no, by default there are no abilities to say only for a specific period of time. You have to remember to go back in there and revoke access. There's a question here about the ability having the a user having the ability to hide their activity. No, because it's a shared document. Everybody openness. Everybody needs to be able to see what's going on. And as far as I'm aware, there's no ability to hide your activity, so you can't go in and have a sneaky edit of a document. Does the person shared with have to have Google Drive, a Google account. If you use the share with @Keel options, then yes, they're obviously going to have a Keel account. If you don't, if you select one of the, anybody can use, if they've got this link or the public one, then no, actually they don't have to have Google Drive account anymore. They used to have to, but I believe a recent update means that they no longer have to have a Google account. But coming from a health perspective, we do have to remember that the NHS, a lot of NHS areas do actually block access to Google, so do just be careful of trying to send it to somebody inside the NHS.
Tim, can I alert you to a new update that I received yesterday, which was on the Google Drive app, because I've got an iPad. The app now was advertising to me that there is documents offline available for the iPad. So you actually can log into a document whilst online, download it, make the edits when you're away from your Wi-Fi, and then next time it connects, it will resync and re-upload to a collaborative document that you might be working on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm just trying to see if I can see the app here. Here we go. Docs in Google Docs. This app here, this is the Android version, can be installed to your Android devices, and it does run offline. And you can see there that it is available to run offline, and it will then work with Google Drive. It will synchronize your files back up once you've reconnected.
There's an interesting question coming in, Tim.
Okay. If accessing via iPad, Google seems to force sign-in via Google.
I think it's worth just saying, being Keel users, we all have single sign-on.
Yeah.
So even when you go to sign in at Google, it will bounce us back to our favourite yellow screen to sign in to Keel. This does at least secure our accounts to the university.
I've not had much experience of trying to access Google Drive without a Google account. But if that's something people want to explore further, we can certainly support having a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to ask Matt, can you access this file that I've shared with you as well? Let me just give it a decent name so you'll be able to see this. So just whilst Matt's coming in to access this file, I'm just going to show you how I titled that. Up here is the title in the top left-hand corner. You can just select it there. Opens up a new box for you to give your file a name. So Matt West has now joined us. Because I shared this document with him, we can collaborate on it live. And as you can see, Matt has taken control of this document. I guarantee you, I can't show you my webcam and the screen at the same time, I guarantee you my hands are up in the air. This is Matt making live changes. If he works on that line, I'll carry on working on this line up here. And you can see both of us are actually editing text live at the same time. Now, you can theoretically have quite a large number of users. I don't know if there's actually a cap on the number of people you can have in here at the same time. Obviously, the more people that you have in here at any one time, the harder it's going to become if you're all trying to work exactly in the same area. But if you're working on separate pages and things like that, it is fine. We've had quite a large number of people doing this. One of the great examples of this is in the LTAG meetings that we have. We will place minutes and other documents up on the screen, and instead of people having to shout out, "Oh, can you just change this bit here?" we're all editing it live. There's 6 or 7 people sat around the table, all just editing it on their own device whilst we're all talking about it, and it really works nicely. There is also the ability of adding in comments, as Matt has demonstrated here. I'll just show you how we actually insert a comment. You highlight some text here, and there's a comment button on the toolbar that allows you to enter in your comment. You can then, when selecting a comment that's been placed into here, start a conversation about this. So it could be that somebody is suggesting a change to the document but isn't entirely sure, so they've commented on it, and then you can start placing in your reply. Once somebody has made a decision on that, you can then mark the comment as resolve. Once it's resolved, it's taken away from the initial view, but you'll see that you have a button in the top right hand corner here that says comments, and this will list out all of the comments that have been made on the document but tell you what has been resolved. You also have the ability there to reopen it if you disagree with the fact that it has been marked as resolved. So this is our first document. We've shared it, we've collaborated on it live, we've done some very basic formatting. There's some extras in here, such as inserting tables. Actually, one of the things that I'll share with you, which is a bugbear of mine, is this is a Word table. It's not an Excel sheet or anything like that. And as such, Google have decreed that they feel there is no need for the merging of cells. I'm just checking they haven't updated and put that function in. No. So when you put a table in, there is no ability to come in and merge those two cells together. There is a workaround where you can do this by specifying, if we wanted 4 columns, but actually only the first row to have 4 columns, but the other rows to have 3. So in other words, merging cells 1 and 2. You can actually insert a nested table. Once you play around with the formatting of the table properties, you can reduce the cell padding, for example, so that it starts to go a bit like that. And you can play around with it, and you can actually get it looking as though it were these were merged cells down here. It is a bit fiddly. That's the only bugbear I have with Google Docs, and it is, I know, a bugbear for other people as well. But that really is the only thing at a low level of text creation that is a problem with using Google Docs. If you are required to take these away from Google Drive, you can, of course, download, and it does allow you to download them as a Microsoft Word, open document format, rich text, PDF, plain text, or web page. But you have to be careful. Obviously, some of the formatting will change. It is always best to keep documents in their original format. If you start in Word, it's best to stay in Word unless you never want to go back to Word. You can convert it, tidy it back up. If you're starting in Google Docs, if you can, stay in Google Docs. If you move to Microsoft Word, try to only do it once. Bouncing backwards and forwards between them, you'll find, will actually cause you some headaches later on. Okay, so I've just got one more question here just to read out. If you have only been given access to view a document, can you make comments? Okay, so I should probably reiterate on the sharing here. When I invite somebody, so if I select Pete Lonsdale, there are 3 levels of access on sharing. So edit gives you the full ability to come in and edit and do everything that we've been doing. View allows somebody to come in and only see that document. They won't be able to do any changes to it at all. But there is the comment option here, which is the same as view. They can only view what's going on, but they can highlight text and then click the comment button. And that allows them to start these comments on the right-hand side here and provide feedback, but without changing the document. There's another question here asking about cutting and pasting tables from a Word document. You can, but it still will not bring in the merged cells. If you have merged cells in a Word document and you bring that table in, it will try to do its best to reformat that table to not use merged cells. Most of the time people find it a really big headache trying to deal with that. If you have to have a table with merged cells, then you're going to have to look at using Microsoft Word for doing that, or look at the rationale for why you have to use merged cells. Could you, for example, just used color coding, a very pale color in the background of your table to help deal with that. So
just to add in there, Tim, you can see I've pasted into the live document a table that I've just created inside Word, where the top left hand, if I can just move my, where you've got your cursor flashing at the moment,
yeah.
that cell was merged together. This was a 4x4 grid on the Word document that I've got here. Sorry, beg your pardon, it was 3x3, and it's come across looking very, very peculiar. And the two cells that I did merge on my Word document aren't merged here. So it's where I've got my cursor flashing at the moment, there were two cells there, and this area, which is apparently at the moment showing up as having no top line, that should be a cell there, and there should be, well, there should be a cell over to the right hand side just above here. I'm just typing the word here.
So this is one of the only downsides that I've certainly experienced with Google Docs, is just the way that it handles merged cells in tables.
Yeah.
And most of us can actually avoid using merged cells in tables when we have a rethink of how we display the information. So you've created your document, you've gone away on holiday, you've come back and it looks completely different, and you're not quite sure who's been working on the document. You may have 20 people that you've shared the document with, and you want to see who's made which changes. This also is a really useful tool if you're working with students, small groups of students, or even large groups of students that are expected to work on a group project, and you wish to actually assess which students have and haven't input into the document, and actually how much they've input as well. So under the File button in the menu bar here, we actually have a See Revision History. This will take us away from the live version, so you see that Matt's cursor has disappeared, and you can see here on the right hand side we have kind of a timeline, and it says today at 13:10 Matthew West made the highlighted changes, which are in a nice shade of pink, and we can see here the bits that Matt has changed. If we go down to the bottom one here, it takes you back to the view that this document was at the time it's saved, so when it's saved at 12:57, and it shows you all of the bits that I made changes to. If I select the middle one, because Matt and I are both working on it at the same time, it saved at 1:05, and it said that everything in green I edited and everything in pink Matt edited. Now it gives you the ability to restore this revision. What that means is go back to this document as it looked at this point in time. What it doesn't allow you to do, if you have a long list of revisions, is to undo that one revision. You have to go back to a point in time. You can't just undo specific changes, which I know is a question that a lot of people ask for. Just clicking the X will take you back to the live version, and it will show you, again, we can see Matt's cursor there, so we're back in the live document and we can start to make changes to it again. The last thing that I forgot to point out in Google Drive is the bin. A lot of people end up deleting. Sometimes if you select things and accidentally hit the delete key on your keyboard, in fact, actually, I don't think it's working for me. No, the delete key is working like the browser, so it's taking me back in a page. But people can accidentally end up deleting files. They think that they're not familiar with Google Drive, so they're not familiar with the fact that it's a shared file. They believe it's their own copy, so therefore they end up deleting the file. Down here you have a bin, and in here are all the files that you have deleted. So you can go back in there, grab the file, drag it back into the folder structure as to where you want it. We have a comment here that says they've been able to manage working without merged cells and tables since the invention of Word. So that's absolutely brilliant. There's no need for merging of cells. We're running ahead of time, which is fantastic. We've got another 15 minutes if people have any other burning questions. I think we've really covered everything that I wanted to include into this session. Matt, do you have any other areas that you wanted to cover?
No, Tim. I think as a basic introduction, we've covered all the bases on the document editor. It'll probably call for another video, short screen capture, if we go and cover presentations and spreadsheets and other such things.
Yeah, definitely. We're planning to make these webinars a more regular occurrence, fitting them in around university events in collaboration with the LPDC. And so we will certainly look at the other apps that are available in Google Drive already, but we'll probably start to explore other apps as well. As I said earlier on, I mentioned an app called Lucidchart, which I can just show you very, very briefly the app for. Lucidchart here, what this allows you to do is connect it to your Google Drive. You get a free educational license, and this allows you to do very, very quick, very, very nice flowcharts. It just allows you to drag in elements of your flowchart here, and then to start connecting these ones up. And it's a very, very nice way of working with flowcharts. But again, this is things that we'll try and cover later on in other webinars. All of these are recorded and made available to you later on. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions here. How secure is this? Depending on, if you're not sharing it with anybody, then it is completely secure. It's locked down, and it's part of the apps for education suite that we have at the university. It's not like we're going out to a system that we're not integrated with. This is part of what we can use in the university. So it is considered very secure. If you start sharing files, folders, using the options of anybody who has this link, or anybody at Kiel, or the public one, then you're reducing the security of your document. The best way really is to share it with selected individuals by placing their email address in to that box, and then it is the same level of security, again just dependent on the person you shared it with, not giving out their username and password, obviously. Okay, so these files are not backed up, and I know that that scares some people. If you install the Google Drive to your computer, where it would automatically synchronize and download the files, then you have a copy of them on your computer as well for offline. If you really need to back those up, there are programs available to you that will take a copy from your folder on your computer, and it will make a duplicate copy elsewhere in your computer. Now, it won't do that for Google Docs, because obviously they live online. There's no physical copy that comes down to your computer. Actually, what happens is, on your computer, you get a link. So when you double-click the Google Doc in your File Explorer or Finder, that opens up the browser and takes you to the document. Google has a rather good track record of keeping all of the files safe and secure. There have been little hiccups in their past, and people make a very big deal of these hiccups. But when you look at other service providers, they tend to have worse hiccups, but because they're not so widely used, people don't make as big a deal out of these things. So really, most of your files you shouldn't worry about, but if they are something that is extremely mission critical, you can, after you've installed the app onto your computer, set up backup procedures for those.
I think it's worth, just let me chip in here, Tim. With Google, they do back up at multiple server sites around the world themselves. That's how they maintain a copy. So in that sense, it is backed up. But
well, they mirror, don't they?
They do. They have a mirroring system.
Yeah, which basically means your file lives in several places at any one time. Okay. So next question here is, can you just go over how we would put an S drive dock into the G drive to share? Okay, certainly. So I'll make the assumption that you've not installed the connection to your computer. Very simply, you'd use the upload button up here and select Files. You'd then navigate to your S drive, which I have here. I'm on a Mac, so it's going to look a bit different to most people, but this is my S drive here, and I could grab a file from here and just click the I can do that one there, so just click open on that, and again it's going to ask me if I want to convert it or not, and I can just start the upload. If you have got it installed on your computer, you just go into your File Explorer or Finder window. Again, navigate to your S drive, grab the file that you want, and then you could literally just drag and drop it into Google Drive on your favorites, or you could just copy it, go into Google Drive and just paste it in. Obviously it's already there because it's moved up via the web interface, but I could paste it in. If I do it, probably just add a 1 to it. If I just say keep both there, you can see it's synchronizing, and in a second that will go onto here, and we'll find, there we go, we already have the 2 copies. That was uploaded via this web page, and that was uploaded via my computer. So we've already answered the question there about being backed up. So we'll just give it a minute or so just for anybody else to ask questions. Being that we're live using Google Hangouts on air, there is about a 30-second or so delay between what I'm saying and you hearing it. So a round trip for a question is anywhere between 1 to 1.5 minutes. So I'm just going to give anyone else the opportunity if they wish to ask any questions. If you don't get the opportunity to ask a question here because you're not watching live, or you'd rather not ask a question in a public forum, then please feel free to email me or Matthew West or your learning technology officers in your schools. Pete Lonsdale from School of Nursing Midwifery was hoping to join us today, but unfortunately has had to join us as a viewer, so he's not able to participate live, but we do have Matthew West from the LPDC. You also have people down in IT services that will be able to deal with your questions and queries. So as no questions are coming in, I'm going to bring this webinar to a close. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully you'll find this a useful resource. You'll be able to revisit this page and rewatch this video again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.